Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Sovereign Vibe podcast, where we talk about all things spiritual, the human experience, and everything in between. I'm your host, Renee Louise, and we will be sharing personal stories on the healing journey, how to overcome trauma of all kinds, and then thusly how to feel more confident as a starseed and empath, aka the sensitive, beautiful soul that you are. On today's episode, I interview Maggie, a once project manager transformed into a transformational coach, and I ask her how her journey has evolved, what she's overcome, and we just get into it. So I hope you enjoy. Here's the beautiful interview of my beautiful friend Maggie. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sovereign Vibrations podcast. This is Zaz, and I'm your host, Renee Louise. This is Maggie. Welcome, Maggie. You're my first interview. I'm so honored. And Maggie, also, you interviewed me on your guest talks. Was that your series name?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that can be found on below and also on your page. But I have the honor now of getting to know you more and to share your magic, yourself with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I wanted to share how we met. It was actually over a year ago now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We both were in a marketing course for our businesses, how to slay on social media with John Hillstead. And then we met in Joshua Tree on a retreat that April of last year, and the rest is history already.
The rest is history. Exactly that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Maggie, about where you're at, where you've been, anything you want to share right off the bat right here.
As an intro, so currently I'm a transformation coach. I have been on my healing journey since, well, for the few years, I'd say 4 or 5 years, but really accelerated kind of journey since my ACL surgery in 2021, at the beginning of 2021. That was kind of like my permission slip to start looking into things that I never dared to look before, that I have convinced myself do not need looking into. And it was just like this eye opener in a way that, okay, hold on a minute. I actually, there's like an anecdote that I have in my head, because this was a knee. So it was like all of a sudden it became very clear that what I've been doing till that point is kind of running away from my problems. And now that I can't even walk, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't run away from my problems anymore. So it was a bit disturbing in a way, but at the same time, I was very hopeful, because I was in so much trouble and pain with the surgery. It was so big in my head, like the way what's going to happen next, that it was enough for me to make this very tough decision at the time, to be like, okay, let me just go back into my past and look into certain things, because all of a sudden I knew exactly what I need to be looking at, like you just know it, you just learned how to ignore it, how to pretend that it doesn't need looking into, and that kind of stuff. So this really was my blessing in disguise, that surgery, that knee surgery that happened 3 years ago. And now I'm a transformation coach. I've completely changed my life around. Honestly, if you told me this 3 years ago, I would not have believed you. I would be like, well, that's a nice dream that you have there, or but I don't think I would believe any of it. And I think as well, partially it's good that I didn't know what exactly is going to be evolving, because that probably would cause more triggers. It would, more fears would pop up. So definitely I've learned over those 3 years that it's good to just take one step at a time and focus on what is presented to you, because there's always more. There's always, a deeper layer or whatever else to discover. But instead of looking at the overwhelming thing that is coming your way, just take it one step at a time, and then it's actually very beautiful journey in that sense. So
Yeah, beautiful. It's so awesome
mm,
to, and even though I've heard your story and we keep getting to know each other, like hearing it in that condensed version is so beautiful to see how quickly within 3 years you've transformed and
mm,
then wanted to give your acknowledged power and knowledge to others through that way, because it's possible for any of us at any time, no
mm,
matter where we're at. So it's
yes. And I think this is the beautiful part of this healing journey, any healing journey for anyone, is this: the more we work on ourselves, the more we come back to ourselves, I think the more we realize that really we are here to serve other people in whatever it is, because it can be different capacity. But if you look at any jobs that we're doing, they are in service of others. So it then becomes this beautiful journey of not just being you, but it's like your existence itself is just so much more meaningful in a way, you know. And
Mhm.
yeah, this is definitely not something I expected. This is definitely not something I envisioned for myself. I was very, very in my denial of a lot of things, and in my old programming and all those things that I didn't really know the names for when I
Mhm.
first started this journey. So a lot of yeah, a lot of this was the education and learning new things, and then little by little, you know, leaning towards this better version of myself, but also envisioning the better future for other people as well. So it's honestly, it's like my dream come true to be a transformation coach. I laugh a little bit that, of course, I'm a transformation coach, because when I was younger, I probably even laughed at something like that. I think I saw a movie and there was like, oh, he's a life coach. And I remember thinking, I was probably like 15, right? So ages ago. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, who needs a life coach? Like, what's that? And then now I am one. So
The
jokes on me.
irony.
Uh, jokes on me. But yeah, obviously that was my ignorance, that was me not knowing anything, and that was also that one of my main kind of driving forces before healing was the need to do everything by myself. You
Mm,
know, I'm the one that can fix my problems, I'm the one that should just keep it to myself and make sure I find the solutions and never ever ask anyone, or not too much, you know.
yeah.
So that was also from that, you know, like, because why would I ask? It was probably me more reflecting my inner state, which was like, I would never be able to go and tell someone, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, can you help me find solution? Because that takes courage, you know. And even and I know it myself, because even 3 years ago it took me over, I think, in a year and a half into my recovery before I openly, slowly, little by little started to yeah, when we met, that was a year and a half in my recovery, because
Mm,
then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into a group. It was super uncomfortable, I was like nervous probably every call, I didn't want to speak, but because it was an intimate container, it helped me. But if I was in like 40 people, 50 people, then you can still stay silent, I wouldn't put the camera on, so you still kind of like, I would watch from the sidelines,
yeah.
and also observe my own inability to take up space, to
Mm,
show up, to be like, hey, this is me and this is what I want, this is what I struggle with. So all of this was a learning curve. All of this I had to train myself. I like to refer it to training, because I have background in Thai boxing. So in my head it just makes sense that the same way as you train your body for the physical benefits that you want, it's the same way with your mind. You can train yourself to become whoever you want, you know.
mm-hmm. Totally. Which is awesome that you had that framework as well to work off of. So it wasn't this leap, even though sometimes we feel it's a leap because it's a whole new area that
Mm.
feels like there's more stepping stones than just that framework, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think yes, I was actually reflecting on the skill set that we have, and all, you know, how there's all those cliches, we call them, sentences that everyone just brushes off, but really they have so much depth if you actually look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So even everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, if you look at it, if you look at your previous jobs, previous experiences, previous heartbreaks, challenges that you overcome. Everything is shaping you to become who you are right now. And if you're like obviously unhealed version of this, then you will be projecting those things onto others, and you will kind of go in a loop, so to speak. But if you start healing, then you will realize that each of those instances actually taught you something. So my Muay Thai experience over a decade, whether training or fighting, then my project management experience, and any other job that I did, any relationships that I have been with, romantically or platonically, all of this has shaped my skill set. And it's fascinating how now that I have this knowledge and I reflected upon everything, I'm like, oh, this is actually, those are the gifts. The gifts come from, I believe, from our challenges. When we face the challenge, that's when we are gifted this beautiful realization that, oh, I have that strength. I have that in me. And then you can use it towards, and then you just add that skill set, and that's how you build that confidence in yourself. That's how everything kind of changes for you with those little actions. So yeah, I think it's very, very underrated in the world, that people usually, and I was one of them, never really celebrated myself, never really looked at my accomplishment, just brushed them off and went to another thing because of the hustle culture, because of you always have to do more to be more.
Yeah.
And only once I started to look into my skills and my experiences and what I've learned from them, which obviously I'm writing a book. So that helped me tremendously with, realizing those things. And then I was like, wow, okay, actually, I know a fair bit. And it's okay to say that. I'm not being selfish. I'm not boasting, which is also the voices that I've been programmed to believe, that I shouldn't be sharing with others what my gifts are or what am I good at, because that will make other people uncomfortable, or that would make me something, there was a lot of that kind of narrative around when I was growing up. So that's how I've learned to silence. That's how I've learned to just not show. Like I would show you, but I wouldn't tell you about my successes, because that would be considered inappropriate.
Yeah, boasting
in a way.
too much or whatever.
Yeah, like you're too much of yourself, but it's a completely different thing, like you have to acknowledge your gifts to you have them for a reason, you have them in service of others. So why would you not share them? Like they are here to be shared.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And as you were talking to, I had a flashback of actually when we were in Joshua Tree and you talking about how you're the dot connector, and that's that synchronistic energy of like, the trauma happened here, I moved through here, and if that didn't happen, it didn't happen, it wouldn't connect it, but it connects. And isn't that so cool?
Yes.
To like have that vision, or to have that different perspective shift when we're out of that intensity. In a way, we can still be in an intense situation, but we can see everything had to happen the way it did in order to be here now. Like we're supported more than we think, for sure.
Yeah. So what helped me, not only the obviously writing my book, the way I started writing, and maybe I can share a little bit about this project, because it's been ongoing pretty much since the day of my surgery. That's when I all of a sudden had this knowing on the hospital bed. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to like dive into personal development world. I'm gonna discover what lies out there. I just knew that the answers are over there. And I also have like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And I didn't know what the book's going to be about. I had no idea, but it was just so strong. It's the first time something like that happened to me at the time. But I just went with it. I found a writing coach right away. And it just synchronicity. There was a lot of synchronicities with this. I didn't have that word back then, but I just went with it. And I was like, let me just go and figure out. So yeah, once I started, I was just writing random memories. Nothing made sense for like a year. I just kept going, kept showing up, kept writing. And the writing itself was actually very healing. So I think that's why I'd like to touch upon this, because journaling itself is very magical. But on top of this, if you actually do find the courage and explore some of your memories, especially though maybe experiences that were not that were more painful, then there is a lot of wisdom to be taken from those experiences. But you will only gather this wisdom when you allow yourself to go there, when you allow yourself to explore it. And for me, having this project, many times I was like, well, I have the book, so I'll do it for the book. I was not strong enough back then to do it for myself and for my healing, and because I didn't know the benefits, I think, of how important it is. I haven't had that knowledge yet, so I did it for the book, I did it for the project, I did it for something else outside of me, and that was enough of a permission slip to go there. I was scared, absolutely. I had no idea. And then by the time we went to a Joshua Tree, I then saw that was like, because I was like a little detective having all these memories. I was like, this makes no sense. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay. Oh, I see now. I see the whole map of my life, how this wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen, or how this affected my reaction here. And it was super fascinating to me to be able to see it. But I think important part in this process is to take yourself out of this equation and be like an observer of your life.
Right.
Because if you continue doing that with a judgment, and that's definitely what I was guilty of, I would constantly I would write something and then I would go and I would judge myself, like, oh my God, look at me doing this, even though it's like in the past, like it's okay. Learn the lessons, but you don't need to beat yourself up for it. Like, that's not the way to go. Like, the way to go is be the observer, be the detective, and be like, okay, what can I learn from here? Why did I do it? So I really just applied that kind of that was my default for anything that was happening in the last 3 years: curiosity and non-judgment. And if I didn't apply these two, I don't think I would have gone as far. But thanks to being able, and hypnotherapy helped me with this. Like, there was a lot of modalities that I tried along the way. I was very curious, very still going with my intensity of I need to do more. I need to this project needs to be done ASAP. So I went really, really in. And then after like a year and a half, I started to slow down and be like, okay, maybe I don't need to do as much. Maybe I need to do a little bit more within. And maybe, I discovered stillness. I discovered inner peace. All of that came after a lot of intensity and feeling like I have to have it done. But that was also my leg, my knee wasn't healing. So there was a lot of judgment that I was putting on myself for not being able to heal the leg. I would feel guilty. I would feel responsible. I would feel not good enough for not being able to handle this recovery better, all of those weird things. So I think that was all presented to me so that I can just surrender a bit more and realize that it's not in trying to force an outcome, but in just accepting what is and, taking it from there.
Yeah. I love how every time you're talking about purification, the incense smoke goes across.
The incense just comes here. I know. I was like, I can't see.
It's like, we gotcha. I love it. So in terms of everything along your journey, how would you describe the impact that spirituality has played into it, or how that has evolved?
Wow. So that is a very broad question, and I'm actually probably going to write my whole second book about it because it's been beautiful. But it's been a huge part. It slowly was kind of like showing itself to me. I think even the vision, the knowing that I had on the hospital bed was kind of like the first tangible, in a way, thing for me to know. Like, at the time I didn't know that it's a spiritual experience. It's some inner wisdom or some higher forces, guiding me to do this. I just literally, I was on morphine, I was on a lot of painkillers, so my logical brain needed to I needed at the time to make it logically make sense. So I was like, oh, I was high, I had a vision, it's okay, but let's go there anyway.
Yeah.
If you told me it's spirit guides leading me, I'll be like, get out of my way, you know, like I would not believe you. I was not that person 3 years ago. I wasn't open to this um magic that exists in the world. But the more I was healing, the more I was exploring, the more I was writing my own story, the more I saw how actually there were things in my life that happened before that I haven't noticed, that I can't explain, that I don't know. This is going crazy again. That I don't know, you know, why they, you know, like I couldn't explain them. So I leaned into the unknown. And then when we went to Joshua Tree, which is actually probably going to be the end of my the book that I'm writing right now, and that was like the accelerator. That's when all this I was open more to spirituality after Joshua Tree, only because I've met all of you. Everyone over there was very spiritual. Everyone over there was just like casually, like the conversations we had. Like I was like total newbie. I was like, what is happening? But I was so fascinated by it. I was very like, this is cool. You know, I was just again curious and non-judgmental. And I was like, you know what, let me go there. Like, why not? What's the worst that can happen? And feeling connected, I think it's important. When you heal, usually in my case, I wasn't religious when I was like 15 or something. I was like, I'm not gonna go to church anymore. I was brought up Catholic. And I just didn't believe in what the church was doing and how the priests were behaving and all that. So I was like, what's the point? And I definitely didn't feel connected to the divine in any way through the religion in my country. So I kind of forgot that. Like I was like 14. I was like, and so since then, I would say it was just me and me. It was me against the world. I had no support from no one, whether physical or spiritual. And the more I started healing, the more I was realizing that's very lonely position to be in, when you're just doing everything by yourself. You're not meant to. You never were. That's why there's people here. That's why that's why there's communities. That's why we had tribes back in the day and all that kind of stuff. So the more I saw that there is a support that I can't explain, the more protected I felt, the more supported I felt, the more courageous I was in my journey of healing and exploring the wounding. Because all of a sudden I was like, do you know what? It's okay. Whatever I'm going to discover, I'm actually supported in a way. But you know, I did a mentorship with you as well, which I highly recommend, with the intention of opening up to spirituality, opening up to my own ability to be more connected. And yeah, even that was very you know, a beautiful journey that I didn't know what's happening. And the way I saw or I assumed will happen, it's actually completely different to what we did. And I think that's the beauty of being on this journey as well, to not be attached to a certain way of things, because I think it's part of a coping mechanism, you know, to be like, okay, this is how it's going to look like, because then you have safety in it's a control issue. You have you're safe when you can control. Yeah, exactly. So I definitely was like, you know, you remember, I was like, I don't think I'm doing it right, Renee. I don't think I'm connecting. I don't think I am. It's like, you are so connected. I was like, no, but I don't see it. So it's been a battle with my logical brain, which was still very present. But I was even sharing with you that now that I have some, like another month or so has passed since we finished. Now I see it in my daily actions. Yoga is my way to connecting. The walk in nature is one. So it's like it just shows up in a completely different ways than I expected. I had this like idea that, you know, I'm gonna wake up and the spirit guy is gonna be chatting to me or whatever, you know, and that's how it needs to be. But it just comes in completely different ways. That I kind of stopped now trying to figure out how it's meant to be. I've learned that this is something that's just gonna happen the way it's meant to happen. So sometimes I know things, sometimes I feel things, sometimes I see a sign when I walk on the beach and I'm like, oh, thank you. So and it's beautiful because I've never felt so protected. I feel very like the inner peace is my favorite thing that happened in this healing journey, because personally I didn't remember experiencing it. I probably did when I was a child, but it was so far away that I didn't remember it. I didn't remember it. And then when it came, and then when I kind of settled and I adjusted to it, I was like, wow, this is so nice to just like wake up and my brain is now on overdrive. I'm just not having all those catastrophic thoughts in my head. I can just like
Yeah.
have and enjoy my day and feel connected. And that's how inner peace shows up for me. Like this just, regardless of what's gonna happen, whatever challenge, whatever fear I need to face today, is just I'm gonna be okay.
That's beautiful. Oh, something I'd love to go back to that you mentioned in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of how you felt it was just you and you in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as you were
Yeah.
saying that, I actually had the vision where that helped you because you were saying before that even you had a gut instinct and you followed it because you were already like, okay, I got me, like this is it. So it seems like that might have been the catalyst to help strengthen that intuitive place for you so that
Mm-hmm.
you trusted that inner knowing to go, even though you didn't have the intuition
Yeah.
label to it. But because there was no support, it caused you to have that strength to trust yourself, which now then you're opening up to have support, which
Yeah.
seems like such a beautiful gift, even though it's lonely and isolating. But I think that's a huge part sometimes of the spiritual awakening. We have to really cultivate that inner connection constantly. And that's something that I feel like we touched on in the mentorship actually, is that healing isn't
Mm-hmm.
linear and we're
Yeah.
constantly releasing, activating, integrating, whatever you want to call it. But it's this cycle of the death and rebirth every day, multiple times a day. So it's leaning into that. And it was so wonderful to hold that container for you and to trust too that you're going to see visions when you're ready and in different ways. And everyone has different awareness and abilities to
Yeah.
be adjusted to and open up to. So it was such an honor that you were open-minded to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now that you say about the visions. I just laughed in my head because I was so fixated about the whole and judgmental towards myself as well when
Mm,
I first started meditating or when I first started like connecting a bit more and I would do yoga or some meditations or even sound baths and stuff and people would talk about having visions and I would be like, oh my God, everyone has visions and I can't see anything. So then I would like judge myself that I'm doing something wrong or that it's just not for me or whatever.
yeah.
So it was a process for me for sure to lean into this. Okay, this is not how it shows up for me. Maybe it's going to be different. And just overriding that voice that was telling me, you know what, you're doing it wrong, because this is a voice, this is my inner critic, this is the voice that I have been mastering over the years. This is the voice that I always had within me. It did made me resilient, it did make me persistent, it did make me accomplish everything that I accomplished in my life. But now I've grown to realize that, you know what, I don't have to be mean to myself. I can accomplish the same things by supporting myself rather than bringing myself down that I didn't do enough. But that also came with the realization that, oh, I am doing this because of the worthiness issues, because of the wounding that I haven't processed yet, because of the programming and all the other things. So
Yeah.
self-love is actually another cliche, love is the
Yeah.
answer. Like, come on now. I mean, how many times did you hear it and how many times you're just like, "Ugh, whatever." I mean, I was that person. I was like, oh, another one, but I'm that one now because I'm like, love is the answer. It's like the highest possible frequency, so vibration. So you're like, I try to, obviously it doesn't mean I don't get angry anymore because it's not about bypassing any other emotions. But even when I process my anger, deep down, I know that this will be transmuted into love. That all the lower emotions are there so that I can transmute, like let go of them, transmute them, and come on the other side. And the other side is love, is joy, is, just kindness, all this higher um frequencies, higher vibrations, and more fun emotions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting to hear and remember too that the visions, I think even for me, didn't come until very late. So I was in the same boat as you were feeling of like, where are the visions? I'm not seeing, but I had the feeling, like I could feel a lot, but not explain it, right? That intuitive
Hmm.
inner knowing. And I think even if there was a way I could switch it on for you, it would cause some type of trauma. Like there is such a unfolding, like even I'm getting the vision of like letting a bird come out of its shell, like when it's birthing. If you try to help
Mm-hmm.
it, it will die. So it has to have
Yeah.
its own process. So it was similar for me too. I didn't have visions probably up until 2018 because I was scared to
Mm.
see stuff and feel it. Like it's not.
Yeah, that's that as well, that our subconscious, we can like you, there is obviously the part that we just like kind of resisting it because there's growth on the other side of discomfort, but there is also trauma that maybe
Yeah,
we just need to heal the wound a little bit before we open that door. So
exactly.
that's why you need healers, you need coaches, you need therapists, you need
Sure.
somatic work, whatever it is,
Hmm.
because your body will tell you. That's another, like, I have all the favorite parts now, but moving my body and transmuting things through movement has honestly been revolutionary to me. I'm like, why didn't no one tell me this before? I don't need to talk. Like I like to talk in general, so people that know me may be surprised by it. But I would talk about everything, but sharing my problems with you. Sharing
Right.
my problems with you was the one thing that I did not know. I did not know how to talk about. Even when I first went to therapy in 2019, for a little bit. It was just weird. I was like, why, what am I gonna say? How it's gonna, but then you sit down and then all of a sudden everything like kind of goes through you.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just, I kind of lost my trail of thought here. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's all good.
my brain just went, where did I go now? I kind of went to this therapist so far and I was like, so yeah, this happens with my brain sometimes. I
That's all good.
apologize.
No, no, I do it too. It's all good. I believe you're talking about the power of movement.
Yes, yes. Which came, thank you. Yes. Yeah, I started dancing. So that was something I kind of shared a little bit on my socials. I actually do want to, so maybe I will share it here. Maybe that will help me hold myself
Yeah.
accountable, because you can transmute your emotions, you can literally heal your trauma with the movement. Obviously you want to go and you want to do it with someone that knows, maybe can guide you through it as well. I did a beautiful like a group coaching specifically for healing trauma, and that's when I had like this whole journey of just moving your body through different songs and letting it do what it wants, and
Yeah.
expressing your emotions while you're moving your body. And it was so cathartic. It was so absolutely, like you wouldn't have thought that in half an hour you can move through so much and feel so much better. And then so I would also dance a lot. Like I couldn't walk properly, but I would like dance like crazy, only because I lean into it. That was my intuition,
Hmm.
100%, because my body was just like, and then there was songs that not only listening and dancing, but even like singing the lyrics. When I was younger, I used to listen to like more heavy stuff, and now I'm like, of course I listen to the heavy stuff because it reflected my inner world. I didn't
Right.
process anything, so all the screaming, all the like it's because I couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
listening to music like that made me calm, because
Hmm.
they were screaming for me. I wasn't
Yeah.
able, I wasn't strong enough to scream. So I was just like, it makes, obviously I didn't know it at the time, but it makes so much sense now. So the
Yeah.
songs would pop up, and then I would just like, when I couldn't walk, I would sit on the floor, and all of a sudden there's like, I don't know, Linkin Park song or something. And then I would just like go with the lyrics, but like really feel into them and kind of have like, see the correlation with maybe like some relationship that was toxic or something, and then I would just let it out, and I was like, wow, okay, it's 3.5 minutes, and I feel like I've just like let go of something that I couldn't for like a year or two. So
So beautiful.
it's amazing how quickly, with movement and with intention, I think
Sure.
the more intentional you are, and the more you're like, okay, this is what I want to tackle here, the
Hmm.
more you can actually make it happen in a much much shorter amount of time than when you kind of just like, oh, maybe like you kind of want to go all in, would be my recommendation. because then you're just going to have the benefits. You're going to see them so much faster, which is with everything else in the world,
Mhm.
whatever you try, if you go all in, you're going to see the progress sooner. Um, so yeah, movement. So dance your trauma out is kind of what I
Yeah.
was thinking of, starting, maybe just, show people as well, and dance in front of the camera, put it as a video, as a reel on TikTok or Instagram, and just encourage people to dance so that they can see themselves, because I can tell you all about it, but you're not going to know until you go and you do it yourself,
Mhm.
and you actually go and transmute it. So anytime you're angry, anytime you feel meh, you feel like, oh, I don't want to be feeling, put your favorite song on and
Mhm.
then sing to the lyrics, express whatever it is without even like, talking about it, how it makes you feel, just express it through your body. And I think for me, it was so powerful because my wounding was in staying silent.
Mm.
So my lesson to learn, my thing to transmute was to find my voice, which I think a lot of women and men, a lot of people have that thing to transmute.
Right.
So you can start with movement. If you don't have the voice yet, find another way of self-expression, because that is your key to getting where you want to go. So that's why, I'm writing the book. For now, it's in safety of my home, in just sharing with whoever it is, but soon enough it will go into the world, and then I'm going to have to get out of that bubble of, but whilst I was writing it, I have become the person that can now handle the feedback from the outside world,
Mm.
because writing it, expressing it, it was part of my healing. It was part of my self-expression. Everything happens for a reason. I know now this book had to be written for me to become the coach, to heal the wounds, to start expressing, to tell my story, to not fear, owning my story, things that, again, 3 years ago, if you told me, I wouldn't be the one that's like, yeah, let me sign up for that one. But I did.
I love it. Yeah, I think movement, we are not taught as humans, even though it's within our like animalistic nature. Like even when you look at animals getting hunted for as
Yeah.
prey and they miss the kill and they're free, they shake their body to get their adrenaline out, and we're not taught that. So I think that's even amazing that you're bringing more of that to the world, because we need more of it. Reminders. Like
Mm.
I even myself have to remind myself, oh, okay, just put some headphones on and let the brain calm the fuck down. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
Put something good on, whatever it is. Like it's power of music too is just huge. So
Yeah, music definitely. I think it was always speaking to me, but since the surgery, honestly, it was just like another level of depth that I can connect with the music, with the lyrics, with the drums, with like, it's just something in my body that, but I think it's because I started to listen. I don't think it's a new thing that just appeared all of a sudden. I think the new thing is that I quiet the resistance and I allowed myself to go there. And I think with movement specifically, a lot of us, well, I can't really speak for men, but definitely women, we are self-conscious about our dance. So many of us. I remember, and when I was a kid, I used to dance so freely until, of course, people started to laugh at me or judge me or be like, oh, look at her or whatever. So little by little, I withdrew and I was like, oh, I need to dance whatever weird way that people think it's cool. But if I just go with whatever the hell I want, then that's too much. That's
right.
unusual. That's whatever. But
Yeah.
dance is like the purest form of self-expression. It's just unbelievable how much it can shift your energy and change your mood and everything. So honestly, I used to, now I don't dance every day, but I actually do want to bring it back, because now I share the space. But when I lived by myself in Sydney, I was constantly dancing every day. It was like a lot, but it was part of my healing. It was part of what my body needed, and I listened. So whether it's dancing, whether it's self-expressing through poetry, writing, there's so many different ways that we can express. Um, that's, yeah, I'll just encourage anyone to just start expressing.
Definitely. So I have a little question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could go back and tell your little Maggie self something, or even doesn't matter what age, what would you tell? What do you feel is the first thing that you would want to tell yourself from that past experience?
I'm sorry
Mhm.
that I've disconnected from you and forgotten how beautiful and bright and full of light and love you are.
Mm.
And I think I would connect with my very young self, like a 5-year-old, or, when I was still very not as marked by life and by challenges. And I had this very positive outlook of the world, very playful, very um, just life is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Let's, help one another, connect with one another, and be ourselves, and just live. Like there was a time when life was just being in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would tell her to connect with that playfulness, with that joy, with that big heart of hers, and stay true to herself.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Oh, I feel like I even have been noticing that no matter what age we were at, that we've lost that innocence or that optimism of the present moment. Even just that inner child practicing of like a year ago and giving us grace and that forgiveness. And it's beyond like words of how powerful that is. It kind of goes into that
Mhm.
cliche stuff, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
it's so awesome that I think the more we talk about it, the more it's normalized, because then people will try it maybe and just see how much lighter they feel in their body, because that's a quantum state of us going back into what we consider the past or whatever,
Hmm.
right? But it's using our free will to bring healing that easily.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot to say that I would tell her that she's beautiful as she is, and
Mhm.
she's obviously worthy, although, I probably wouldn't even understand those words as a kid. Or who knows, maybe I would, but it wasn't the
Yeah.
type of talk anyone was having back in the day. But yeah, it's like this realization now. Um, I'm very happy with like the way I see. Recently, I've been actually going through some shifts and deeper healing as well, and I've noticed that it brought me even more inner peace, which was even more beautiful, and it brought me this. I think I've finally forgiven all
Mm,
the previous versions of myself, and even I know that there's still going to be something that's going to pop up, and I'll be like, oh, there's a deeper layer here. But
right.
I've trained myself, again, I would say this word because I think then you kind of know that you have the power to do it, because the more you do it, the more natural it's going to become, like with any habit. So
Totally.
now I just don't judge myself. I'm still going to take responsibility if I did something, and I'm still going to hold myself accountable if I want to change it to something else and I have a certain habit or a certain belief or whatever.
Mhm.
But I don't judge myself anymore. I'm not attaching a story to, and that was my default. That was my default for many, many years, and that I think just kept me in a loop of this. It kind of helps you keep playing small as well, in a way, because you
Right.
just convince yourself that, well, you can't really, you know uh be much better or accomplish, because it's not like it was a bit of a contrast with me, because I knew I'm intelligent, I knew certain amount of skills, but it was like, still I need to stay here and I can't take the spotlight and I can't do this, I can't be better than someone else,
Mhm.
or this type of success is not available to me. And it was not just me not feeling worthy, it was the environment I grew up in. It was, so the more I started learning about um beliefs and limiting beliefs, the more I was like, oh, that's
That's
just
what
a
that
belief that
is.
I picked up on. I don't need to hold on to that. I can just like, and some literally realization that this is a belief, and then boom, let go. Some a bit more ingrained, but
Right.
those are the ones that are attached to the wounding. But a lot of our limiting beliefs are just programming from the society we grew up in, the environment we were surrounded by, the experiences, not necessarily traumatic, but in a way restricting, limiting. As women, again, plenty of situations for all of us in which we were told not to be this, not to be that, not to speak too loud, not to laugh too loud, not to, all of that. Like, how many times did I hear those? I don't walk good enough. I don't, like, everything that I do is not good enough, even though, there's plenty that I do good enough, but this you don't hear. You hear the ones that you don't do good enough, and then you do it to yourself. Like, we even discovered as well in our mentorship, that, I was being unappreciative of my own efforts towards my business, and and then I had this realization that, wow, I'm just literally doing what my manager used to do to me,
Right.
because it was just such a familiar place to be in, that I do 100 things, but we're going to focus on this one that I didn't do, and that's going to determine my worth. And that's not a great place to to be in. So yeah, that's all those realizations, all those things, now made me in this position that whatever comes my way, I'm like, okay, let me pause, because you kind of need to pause, because emotions will build up. Like, you can be triggered, you can be whatever, but then you're like, okay, let me pause and let me just remind myself that whatever is going to come up, whatever I'm going to discover here, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm still lovable. I'm still good. Everything is fine. This is just going to get me to another level of awareness, another level of my skill. And there's always light at the end of the darkness, right? So with that, I think that's a very powerful thing to train yourself. Totally. Like, I feel almost invincible right now, because I'm like, you know what? Not to test anything, but you know how it is.
No, I get you. Which is beautiful.
But it's just like this beautiful. It's that support. Maybe it's the connection to the spirits, and to something greater than myself as well, that makes me remember this so much easier. A few months ago, it wasn't like, even when we started the mentorship, definitely I wasn't in that place just yet. So like, it's not something I've trained myself a long time ago. It's a ever evolving journey. And it's just beautiful. I'm really glad that I mean, I don't want to say I'm glad that my knee was damaged, but it was I think it was exactly, it had to be my knee. Nothing else would have stopped me from running away if I could still walk. So technically speaking, I'm not surprised it was the knee and nothing else.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And I can relate to that when I've had my back go out, and it's literally this universal being like, you have to figure it out or feel it, like, be here now. It's time. Which brings me to my next question for you. What would you say has been one of the biggest struggles along your journey, and how do you feel like you manage that aspect now, or how have you learned to manage that aspect for yourself? If you feel like sharing,
there's been a few things. I think well, probably at the very beginning, I think the biggest struggle was to just completely allow myself and give myself permission to focus on myself and on my health and on my well-being, and isolate myself, and not be available to others as much as I may have been before. So going internal, like, not just that being the friend that you can call and discuss things with. But I think a lot of my struggle was also connected with well, I think we all have inner child wounds, right? So when I first started to unpack a certain stuff connected with my childhood, or my growing up, or other things that happened later, there was this guilt, what my family is going to think, like, how they're going to react to it. And many times it even stopped me from progressing, stopped me from going further, because I've transmuted this, so I will say it. But at the very beginning, I honestly thought that I am being mean to my family by exploring my thoughts around things maybe that hurt me when I was a child.
Mm,
And it could have been just something that someone said, not everything
yeah.
needs to be hella traumatic to be painful to you and your well-being. So there was things that they did or they didn't do that affected me. And the initial exploration of my own feelings around those experiences was very hard for me because I had a massive guilt that I'm being a bad daughter, bad sister. How dare I
Mm-hmm.
blame them? Even though I technically didn't think I'm blaming them, this was the voice that was telling me. So
Sure.
it was very conflicting. It was very, I obviously they didn't know and I didn't share with anyone. It was just me processing by myself. But the more I did it, the more I learned about inner child wounds, the more about I learned that everyone goes through it. So, I had those, but my brother's going to have something different with me. My sister's going to have similar or maybe different, but we all have certain wounds because we're human. We
Yeah.
are emotional beings. So I definitely had them at some point as much as they had me. So it's not about blaming, it's about allowing yourself to express what you felt, because only then you can come out of it and understand it's like, oh, okay, well, I just felt that way and it's okay. And now I know that it's not about blaming anyone in my family, but it is still my responsibility to acknowledge those wounds and heal from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've learned and how I managed it, that I just, again, I was very curious, and because I still at the time was doing everything by myself, so I didn't ask anyone, I didn't have anyone to share it with, or I didn't have the courage even to ask and be like, hey, I'm exploring this thing with my brother 20 years ago, what do you think? Like it just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I would even go even more because I had that much guilt that, oh my god, I'm such a bad sister to my brother, like how
Right.
dare I. But we were kids, and we think, but funny thing is we were kids, but if I don't process it, I'm still gonna go back to that kid now as an adult, when now you're gonna tell me something, and I'm gonna remember that my brain's gonna connect it to this memory when I was a
Right.
child, and let's say my brother said something, and if I haven't processed it, then now you're gonna trigger me with what
Right.
you say, because it's kept in my body as this unprocessed wound, and I don't have the lesson that I'm meant to be learning, that this was just an unexpressed emotion, and I was okay to have my feelings, and he was okay to have his feelings. So knowledge helped me, curiosity helped me, going and exploring, and um self-reflecting. I did a lot of self-reflecting. Apart from writing the book, I'm also journaling all the time. So I think the habit of self-reflection is very, very powerful, and it's probably why I'm so efficient now with my with connecting the dots, as I like to
Mm-hmm.
call it, like my superpower, right?
Yeah.
But that's because I've built that habit, because I've built that self-reflection, and this non-judgment.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think that because the generational stuff is just this domino effect where this is how it is, there's no other way out of it, right? I think confirmation beep. I think that when we go, like what you said, you go in with curiosity and look at those wounds, even though there's guilt and so much guilt, that's generations of guilt that haven't
Yeah.
been afraid to look at it, because then you're like the black sheep of the family trying to change and heal, and no one wants to talk about it. So I think that's how the healing happens for the collective too.
Hmm.
It's this collective
Yeah.
systemic thing. And thank you for doing that work, because again, it helps all of us have less guilt as we move through things and normalizes it. And I think too, we can have compassion with our family members when they're afraid to look at it still and may not want to talk
Yeah.
about certain things. But knowing too that, and I've seen this for myself and I've seen it for everyone in my life doing this work, that even when we're doing it without talking to our families about it, there is a shift.
Yes.
It's almost an immediate quantum shift. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but you might have a conversation where it surprises the shit out of you, where they're like, oh, I see you now, or like they could talk to you about things. And I feel
Mm.
like you've possibly experienced that too, where you've seen
I
that.
have definitely, yes. And it was very beautiful for me to see because I live in Australia, but I'm Polish. So my whole family is in Poland. And as I said, like I wasn't exactly sharing everything that I've been going through. Well, I basically didn't have the words. And also there's this distance. So I felt like I shouldn't be sharing certain things with you because you can't even help me because you're on the other side of the world. So
Right.
part of me wanted to obviously protect them from suffering, like because I already knew that I can, like I've been handling my suffering for my whole life. So I mean, why would I put it on you right now? But I've learned throughout this journey that me sharing my pain with you isn't making you take that pain. It's actually gets us closer. It's actually also gives you permission to look at your pain and maybe realize that you don't have to hold on to it either, that there is a different way of living. And like I still have fears. I still fear that, especially with the book, that somehow maybe it will cause conflict in my family, or maybe someone's not gonna understand it, and maybe someone will blame my parents or my brother or my sister or myself. Maybe there's gonna be judgment in one way or the other. But I know that I'm writing it basically for myself, for my younger self. This is a book that I would love to have read when I was 19 or even 20, or at any stage before. If I got the hands on that book, that could have changed the trajectory of my life. So this is the intention. I am writing this, but obviously this is my healing journey as well. So first and foremost, it's written for me. It's written for me because through expressing that pain and alchemizing it, I was able to alchemize it through expressing it, because I gave myself permission to do it, which I never had before. So, but there's gonna be those voices. There's always gonna be this, what other people are gonna say or how it's gonna affect your family. And that's why being this observer and just coming as the detective, be like, do you know what? I'm just here exploring what is this.
Yeah.
And just detaching yourself a little bit from the emotional side and just being curious again. I know I'm repeating this a lot, but it's really what's the base of everything that I do right now. And it works like magic. It works like magic because I no longer need to listen to that resistance, and that judgment, fear of judgment and all that.
Yeah, beautiful. I think too, it's like as sensitive beings, that noise sometimes is just the contrast that's in the collective that's so heavy. If we think about it, the contrast is still a little bit more visible and we're so conditioned to it. So of course we're going to have that be really loud. But I think too, it's the curiosity you're talking about too, and we are showing that through how we're being, then our family can kind of tune into that. So even if someone's getting defensive, like not taking it personally and knowing that they're coming from their wound and having that curiosity of why are they reacting this way instead of what did I do wrong? But I think that it's still always going to be there. So it's just being so compassionate with ourselves, which is huge. So,
and I think at least in my case, the compassion comes from self-love, because self-love taught me to be compassionate towards myself, because compassionate towards myself really is being compassionate towards my younger versions that didn't do a certain thing. So I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive the situation. I have to forgive so many things. So I've developed compassion from this inner child work, from this healing. And then that compassion then turned into, oh, actually I do love the way the person that I am, the person that I become, because then you're like, okay, well, I did the best I could with the situation. You see certain things that you did, and you see I don't know, a memory that was you thought you did so badly, and then all of a sudden you have this different angle that, oh, actually I did pretty well here, considering. So it helps you. And once that's why I do tell in my content quite often that self-love is the key, because how are you going to be compassionate towards others if you can't be compassionate towards yourself? It's the same. How can you love, how can you be in a functioning relationship if you don't love yourself? It's going to project one way or the other on all of your relationships, platonic or romantic. So it's obviously one of the cliches, right? Because like we said earlier, but it is definitely thanks to the self-love I've developed for myself that I am now more compassionate towards others. So if I see I can have more deeper connections, I can forgive people more easily. Of course, you still have your boundaries. Of course, you still want to do things that are good for yourself. You don't want to be taken advantage of, but there is a difference, and it's not such a fine line, which I may have thought before that, because I used to be a people pleaser. I used to, do those things. So then it seemed like a fine line. But the more I developed the self-love, the more I'm like, actually, this is not a fine line, because now I know who I am and what I deserve. So I can have a conversation with you, put my boundaries, and then we can take it from there. Or I can just decide, depending on your action, right, whether this is a supportive environment for me or not. So now I have the capacity to choose what's best for me and in the long run over, a friendship or relationship or some sort of connection, even work, because that the wounding will spill into every area of your life. It's not like you're only going to be having terrible relationships because of the wounding. No, it will, like, you can sort. So it's not, that's why it's not about sorting out, like, if you think you have issues with relationships and only relationships, obviously, yes, look into that as well. You can go to a relationship coach, but I think it's like, it's a whole holistic thing. So look into your wounding, because if you maybe find a good partner, but then that it's going to spill into your work life or your friendship life or something else, because if you don't heal, it will go somewhere else. And you can change, you can play that game. Like, I lived in London, then I moved different places and did different things, and that was my way of distracting and thinking that everything is fine, until I was no longer able to be changing my environment or changing the distracting myself with something. But even having said that, I think obviously Thai boxing saved my life in many ways, and was always meant to be on my it was a self-expression of my unprocessed wounding. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating as well, but it makes all the sense.
Totally. I think as you were talking, I just kept hearing the subconscious is everywhere, right? So if we're wounded in one area, like you said, the subconscious, we may not understand it or see it because we're so focused like on relationships, you said. So I think that's so important, because we're also, at least here in the US, we don't really have that support of that holistic way of being and healing. So I think the more that we share our stories of how we found that, and that's why I wanted to create this podcast and have you on too, because it's possible, and it's this linear thing. It's not linear, but it's constantly changing. And I think that's where, again, like, we make the most progress. And with that being said, too, do you have a vision for yourself moving forward and your business, or any goals you want to share, and we'll help manifest by talking about?
Sure. Oh, I've been working on my vision pretty much since that vision on the hospital bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have, the vision, the beautiful thing about vision is that it evolves with you, is what I've noticed. And I also now, I'm very proud of letting go of the need to be in control of my vision, knowing exactly what I need to do and how I'm going to do it and all that. This is the reflection of my progress in my journey. Because even with the book, I was like, it's going to be done by the end of the year, and I've been saying this for the last 2 years, right? But turns out that I actually needed to include things that even happened only last year. So like, I couldn't have finished it sooner, but I didn't know it at the time, and I was still very attached to the outcome and the control, and I set my mind to the book, so it needs to be done. Now my vision is more very broad, in a way that it's I'm just going to be like, I know that I'm going to be doing what I'm doing for until I'm here in this suit, right? So whether it's another 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, who knows, how long it's going to be. I'm very passionate about writing, so I do envision myself after this book. Honestly, even this book is already a 3-part. It was always meant to be a trilogy. So, like, I have the second part, which I just said it's going to be more focusing on the synchronicities and me opening up to the spirituality. So that would be the second book, I reckon. And the third one, I do want to write it in Polish. I think it might be a kind of back to the past and to the beginnings, and maybe I'll connect with some other Polish people. Actually, if anyone is interested, why don't you contact me? Why not? Because I think I do want to give back to my home country as well, even though I live in Australia and I actually became a citizen and I'm a dual citizen. But you know, my heart is with Poland and always will be. And even though I don't live there, doesn't mean that I don't care for my country, that I don't care for people from my country. So I do feel like the third book might be more around me growing up in the 80s. I was born in 1984, so this was still communist times in Poland, and then things changed in the 90s. So like this whole landscape of change. You know, there was a big shift from the 80s to the 90s, and then what came with it. So I would love to explore it a bit more, maybe write some things write it in Polish just for my deeper healing as well. Maybe discuss generational thing, maybe have, you know, speak to my mom a bit more, connect with her and get her side of the story. Maybe I'll do generational, like, I don't know, this is a very still thing that is developing, and I am allowing it to develop one thing at a time, of course. So I'm finishing this book first. With the coaching, I love working with people with vision. So if you don't mind me saying, we've worked together as well, and it was an absolute honor for me to help you bring your Oracle deck vision to life, because it's not just the Oracle deck. You have the whole vision with it, the sound bus, there's everything that goes with it. And this is what I'm most passionate about, because I see my life as a vision after vision, and like just bringing it to life and taking what comes with it, because I also learned along the way that there's going to be redirections, there's going to be unexpected things, opportunities, and that is what's the most beautiful around about it. That but you still go a certain direction. So my direction is to go, I think I'm here to activate your gifts and remind you of your inner power and your wisdom, and provide the structure that will be supportive to you, because I have the very, very masculine, good masculine skill set. And then now in the latest years, I have been developing my feminine skill set. And now that I am merging it together myself in my own day to day, I see the beauty of, you know, being able to just go with the flow. But you know, you kind of need both. But then there's like this beautiful balance of flowing in between what you need at a time. So yes, I'm calling in clients. My dream client is someone with a vision, someone with or an ideal vision. You don't have to have it super clarified just yet, but you just know you're meant for more, and you want to use your skill set, you want to do something good for the humanity, and you want to get better yourself, you want to embody the person that you need to be to bring that vision to life, and you are willing to just focus on it. Because, you know, it's one thing to have a vision, but it's not going to just bring itself to life. You have to take aligned actions, you have to embody certain things, there's this work that needs to be done for you to be able to bring it to life. So this is the part that my signature mentorship is about, and I'm most passionate about as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, being in your mentorship container, I felt so safe to be vulnerable, because as a creative person, a very sensitive person, the business side of things or structure has always been hard for me. Like, I even grew up with learning disabilities. So having that vulnerable container to feel safe and just be like, this is what I'm working with, this is where I want to go. And you easily, like, it was so easy for me to lock in and be like, oh, that's all it was? Like, I just have to do that? Like, the structure felt so fluid. I think that is truly another superpower of yours, because that whole saying of it doesn't have to be hard, it can be easy. Like
Mm.
you helped me embody that, especially with the Oracle deck and just my business in general and life in general. So
Thank you.
I highly recommend working with Maggie if you're wanting that balance of that masculine and feminine with your vision. Like, I don't think honestly I would be as relaxed in my business and now launching my Oracle deck, like literally within days. Like, you helped me when I was about to give up in lots of ways because I was self-sabotaging. And it comes when we're about to finish something big or shift, and I think having support is huge, and we may not realize we need it, or we might feel, I know for me, I had like I was embarrassed that I needed help, and it still comes to me sometimes because it's the vulnerability side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So thank you for your container too. Like it was
Oh,
such
absolutely. It's been my pleasure, and I am very excited for you and for that vision to come to life, and for people to experience what you created, because it's very beautiful and powerful, and I know you put your heart and soul into it. And it's like, even with my book, I think that I've learned this as well, this feminine. So it comes down to my skill set. Like obviously, I was a project manager for many, many years, so that was the masculine was definitely thriving in that corporate environment. But it's with the healing and with the feminine. So I always say that I tested on myself first, and like because then I can just tell you, because I know firsthand how it affected me, and I definitely was in a spot that I wouldn't want to ask for help, or I wouldn't even be able to even telling you my vision just like so casually. A few months ago, me would not say it. I would be like absolutely terrified of speaking those things out loud, for the judgment of others, or even that how dare I have such a big beautiful vision for myself. Like I'm not worthy maybe of being this vessel, but
right.
you are a vessel, right? We are just vessels for it. So and I think that came from the feminine, that came from this new wisdom that I've only experienced in the last few years. And even though I've only experienced this in the last few years, now it feels like I've always known it, because it was just the wounding, the armor that I've put as a protection. So once I peeled off that protection, it immediately rose, like, so now I wouldn't say my masculine is better than my feminine. I would say now they're all there, and now I can flow in between the two.
Beautiful.
It's not about which one, and we all can get there, we can all absolutely get there, but we all have wounding that is blocking us from accessing those energies within us, because we definitely both, all of us have the both, all of us have the skill set, we have different gifts, obviously different visions, we all here to do a bit of a different service to the humanity. But once you peel off the wounding, once you heal, then you're just like, it's like a no-brainer. You know that you're here for this particular reason, right? Like you're the channeler, you do this, you're here to help people, and often it's people that were affected by similar things that you have been affected, because you have that life experience dealing with it, so you can relate to them. Like I can easily, like if I see someone in denial right now, I'm just like, man, you're not gonna hide from me. Like I see it from miles now. Like because
I
I
know
was
that,
that
Kate.
I was that for 38 years, 36 years or something. So like there's no hiding. You can't hide denial from me. Like I will know. But that's because of my experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure you can see certain things as well. Well, you're gifted as well. On top of that, you have the guides that direct you and tell you. But yeah, I think it's I'd like to put that message out there, that every single one of us has the gifts,
Totally.
and majority of us don't realize because we are in our wounding. I'll just stop in there. There's a lot to be said there, but
Well, 100%, because I mean, like I always, when I started waking up to just spirituality in general and knowing what channeling was, I was like, oh, I want to do that, but I doubt I'll get there. Like I had no idea if you had told me I'd be doing it like in a couple of years, I'd be like,
Mm.
I don't know. Like it probably would have scared the shit out of me. So I think too, like what you were saying about when we can finally just say it out loud, even if there's an inner critic, right? Even writing it down, like the journaling you're speaking about, we're putting it out into the physical. And then it's deciding what little actions, and this is what you helped me with so much too. It's like what little actions, either every day, a tiny little action, or you even helped me break down where it was like 2 to 3 times a day or a week working an hour
Mm-hmm.
on a project. So it's not
Yeah.
this overwhelming, punishing if I'm not doing it right, and still having grace with it. So even if I didn't do that set schedule, I still had a place to nurture myself through
Yeah.
it and heal that inner critic. And I think, especially as women, we've had to survive in a masculine state. And so a lot of us in a collective way too are healing that, like how you said, the hyper masculine. And maybe even, again, I can't speak for the masculine energy either, but there's a lot of toxic masculinity. So even recently in a channeling for this month, it came in like we're healing feminine and masculine energy simultaneously because of that
Yeah.
definition. So, and every work, like everything you're doing, is a part of what affects that because it's all so interconnected. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think because there's a lot of talk out there on toxic masculinity, but there's a toxic femininity as
Of
well.
course, yeah.
So and I think, yeah, a lot of us have the wounding is spread, whether it's evenly or not necessarily, but
Yeah.
on one of the masterminds I've been doing, there was this guy and he said that his masculine was wounded, so he was very feminine his whole life. And actually that very little sentence was my realization. It's like, oh my God, that's why I'm masculine,
Ah,
because my
I like
feminine was wounded. So I connected those dots from
right,
one little sentence that a guy said on a mastermind that I attended.
right.
So sometimes you don't know what can resonate and what can give you this aha moment. And sometimes one little aha moment can propel you so much forward, because you
Yeah.
have that. I was like, oh, okay, now I can do something about it. I can
Hmm.
forgive myself, or I can just make another step forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just about, it's just the healing. It's just the healing and finding the balance. There's no better or worse. It's not that masculine is worse than feminine.
No,
There's place for both, and there's place for balance. And there's
exactly.
and the world we've been brought up in was just toxic masculinity mostly.
Right.
So it was just very off balance.
Exactly. And as you're saying that too, I'm actually getting the vision too of like, because again, like femininity was being like quiet and all of that.
Yeah.
That's why it was so obvious of the toxic masculinity, but then
Yeah.
repercussions of that feminine suppression creates that toxic femininity or whatever, right? It's that still generational trauma and not allowing yourself to feel free and talk about the wounding, talk about what we need.
Mm.
So, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
I am very hopeful for the future. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people maybe aren't, but I also have the knowing that we're going the right direction.
Yeah.
But it starts with us. It starts with us. So one of the things that I was reflecting on as well is how, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. Someone said
Mhm.
that. I can't remember now which quote.
Be the
Who is
change
it
you want to
from?
see. Yeah.
Yes, be
Yeah.
the change you want to see, or just start with yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to do like you want to change, bring a massive change into the world, you have to start with yourself, because otherwise you're going to be just projecting your wounding in, and you're going to come at it in an aggressive way or in some
Right.
toxic way, demanding things. That's not how we bring change. We don't bring change from hatred, anger, or power play.
Totally.
That is, well, we can bring change, and that's the way we were shown, but that's not a sustainable way, and that's not an empowering way to bring change for others. So again, it's with the love, with the kindness, with the compassion is what we can actually bring lasting and supportive change for many, many more, and that starts with us. So
Totally. Yeah. And speaking of the future, do you believe in reincarnation?
ooh, Yes, I know now that it's funny because as soon as you said it, I just remember this scene in religion. We had religion classes
Uh-huh.
in primary school, and I was reading this book about reincarnation. So I was probably like 14 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember being super excited about the book. I was like, this is so cool. You can just come back as so it's not the finish line. It's not all of that. And then the priest that was running the religion class, he asked that question to us, and he said who he believes in reincarnation. And just as I was like, trying to put my hand up, he's like, well, but mind you, if anyone does, then you're gonna fail this class and burn in hell or whatever. He didn't say burn in hell, but basically it was like, tell me if you believe in reincarnation, but if you do, get out of here and you fail the whole class and your parents gonna be annoyed and this and that. So I was like, okay, well, that's very exclusive, but okay. um and yeah, shortly after I stopped going to church, so that was
Yeah.
big enough for me. I was like, that doesn't seem supportive to me. When I'm 14, I'm growing, I'm learning about the world, and you're already telling me what I cannot even attempt to think.
Right.
So um I don't spend too much time thinking about the reincarnation in a way like, oh, am I going to be in the next life? I'm focusing on this life. I know that there's been some past lives. We've done some work on that one,
Yeah.
which was very supportive and interesting. And I'm always fascinating about, learning things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the way I view the reincarnation is that we are coming back so that we have enough, so we kind of start, we always have the knowledge that we've gathered, so however far we went in our awakening in the previous life, that's what we have access to when we return, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and then every time you are here, it's your job to work on that awakening and see how far you can go in reaching your full potential, in just stepping into your power and all that. So I think read somewhere that once you have a certain amount of lives, or you reach that level of awakening, that then you can just like roam the cosmos or whatever, and you don't reincarnate anymore.
Uh-huh.
But so yeah, so what I'm thinking is like, oh, maybe this is the life in which I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna go as far, let's see how far I can go in this leveling up
Yeah.
and learning the mysticism of the world, the spirituality and all that. So which is fun because it makes my life way more interesting, and beyond as well. And probably helped me a lot with, I had unprocessed grief and stuff. So it's yeah, it helped me a lot with like this whole idea of death, and
Mm.
that it's the thing that you need to fear the most and stuff like that, like it's such a part of life
Yeah.
that, and yet so many of us don't know how to talk about it, or how to
Right.
even handle grief. So
Yeah. Well, so
it's a
being,
supportive belief to have
yeah.
for me.
Well, being silly with it, what would you want to do in your next reincarnation? Or where would you want to explore the cosmos?
Oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I have so many plans for this life,
I know.
Renee, that I haven't thought about the future. I
I had to
haven't thought
bring more
about it yet.
I had to bring more galactic spin to it at the end,
Yeah,
you
yeah. I don't think I have an answer. I don't
That's okay.
know. I don't know.
You can ruminate on it and we'll get back to
Yeah, I'll text
chat
you
again.
later.
To be continued.
Yes.
Well, I would love to, if you're up for it, offer you a
Mm-hmm.
little reading live here with the
Ooh.
Oracle deck just to close things out. But I want to first thank you for everything you shared as well. Like this has been such a beautiful container to have and hear about your story, because I think the more we talk about our stories and our journeys, the more other people feel safe. That gives them that permission slip.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing everything you did, even
Thank
the
you.
tougher questions, tougher parts of your journey. Um, yeah, thank you. You're such an inspiration to me as well. Just
Oh,
everything
thank
you've
you.
overcome and seeing you build your business and trust it and go for it. It's
Oh,
great.
it's been a process.
Isn't it always,
The
right?
leaning into the unknown and the patience and all those things has definitely been a process.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. You're doing great.
I even learning how to receive a compliment has been a process. So thank you.
Thanks for receiving it, Maggie. You did so well.
It is my new, yeah, it's my new challenge, how to receive.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So is there a certain question you want to go into with the oracle reading at all, or anything you wanted to see what comes forward?
Is there anything that you had in mind or?
Oh no, that was totally up to you.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
No, maybe just like, yeah, you can connect with
See what comes through.
yeah, see what comes through. See what comes through. Let it be a surprise.
All right. What does Maggie need to know? Your team's really funny, by the way. Like, so funny. I don't know if I have told you that. Your team's really funny. Like, your sense of humor, your team's like playing jokes with you too. They're helping you be that stand-up comedian. You got the trust your intuition
Yes,
card.
exactly. I forgot. What's that?
The trust your intuition card, number 3. So you're already doing that, but this is the light language.
Leaning even more.
Yeah. And I'm hearing like with the book trilogy. Oh, number 3 books.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Got the Gemini card. I honor my outer and inner reflection of self. My mind is balanced and open to change. So as we've been talking this whole time about balancing that masculine and feminine.
Masculine and feminine, yeah, Gemini.
What's your sun sign again? Sagittarius, right?
Sagittarius, yes.
Yes. Which I feel like that balance, mastering with the Sagittarius energy, pointing towards your dream, shooting that arrow, it's unstoppable. You're unstoppable, Maggie.
Tell me more.
Oh, that card flew out as you said that. Okay. Unwavering truth, my darling.
Wow, I just used the word unwavering in my like latest post, so it's not a word I use often. So thank God.
So the affirmation is, I hold all the divine connections to my soul's unlimited potential. My actions are connected to my soul's truth. It is woven in the cosmic fabric of the quantum field.
Ooh, okay. So what I'm hearing is to lean into my balancing. So literally what we just were discussing and what I was
completely
exploring and confirming. Okay.
I keep hearing too, it's that's your way of helping people too. That's the medicine amongst everything else that you have as medicine, but that is really lean into that more with unwavering truth. So even if you doubt it, this is the confirmation that that's just that chatter, that noise.
Okay.
Anything else? Will we get the water card? So healing the emotions around what comes up with the insecurities I'm hearing about any possible aspect. The affirmation is, the water of my body and of earth flow in healing waves of love and unity, purifying all stagnant emotions and frequencies.
Well, I live by the ocean now, and it's definitely helped me. I think I always had to move to Australia anyway, so that I have that connection, reconnection with the nature.
Totally.
And be able to, go within a bit more. It's definitely, it was very supportive environment, especially now where I live in Sunshine Coast, more of a quiet town, but it's just, honestly, I'm like, best place I've ever lived in. I'm just so peaceful and I love it.
Are you okay if I share what we recovered or discovered about the land and your past lives there?
Yeah, sure.
Because as you were talking about living there, living where you're at, your native indigenous self is like next to you. So we uncovered for Maggie that she has lived where she's lived before as an indigenous medicine woman, like leader of her community, and that they're there to support her as you continue to share your story and write everything out. That's going to help so many people. I'm getting the chills. So it's just been so cool to see your transformation, and you're healing the land like you're doing. I think all of us don't recognize how powerful, as I get the Earth Star chakra card,
Mhm.
where our bodies, our everything on our journey is impacting things that we have no idea about, even if we can feel it. There's so much healing. So thank you for everything you're
Oh,
doing.
thank you. Thank you. I definitely very supported by the environment here, even people that I meet, and even being in this house. Like it's a lot of things that I noticed that I wouldn't have noticed before.
Mm,
That just again coming back to this feeling supported by something that I can't explain. It's just really nice to have something like that, you know. But I think it also came with the whole me being able to lean into the support in
mm,
others, you know, once I opened myself up to receive it and share it and be witnessed, that's when everything else kind of, you know, shifted as well. And that was definitely a challenging thing for me to just come from I'm the strong one that helps everyone to hold on a minute, I need to be the one that asks for help right now for a little bit.
mm.
My
Yeah.
ego did not like it.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
And my hyper independence also didn't love it. So
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing for empaths or sensitive people,
mm,
to really heal that aspect of receiving from
yeah.
ourselves and from others. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Was there anything else
Thank
you
you so
wanted from this
much.
card reading? I could read you, I forgot to read the affirmation for the
Yeah.
Earth chakra. So it's, I activate and ground through my anchor within the Earth grid. I allow nature to support me along my journey.
Mm. Would you look at that? Thank you for confirming that what I've been doing lately is exactly what I need to be doing. So, no, the only thing I would ask is like, tell me more about my team, because obviously I'm always like, whoa, who are they? What they're doing? Um, but yeah,
Your team,
it's
even
okay.
since I tuned in last time for you during the mentorship container, it's double.
Mm. Oh
I
yeah.
I see at least 24 on your team. Uh, the majority of them right now are part of either indigenous family from the land from where you're at. A lot. There's 5 archangels. You have a couple animals. I'm seeing like a cheetah, a snake, and of course your dragons are with you. You know your dragons
That's
are with
yeah,
you.
that's what I've been told in Joshua Tree. Yeah, those are
Hmm.
my 3.
Hmm. With your
Yeah.
tattoo dragon as well.
Yeah, yeah, which was one of my first as well.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful.
Mm.
I keep seeing like a whale too. So you have a lot of sea creature friends,
Mm.
which is funny. You got the water. So maybe the next time you go in the ocean,
Mm.
you can
I
ask
think I
for
need to,
that.
yeah, I'm not that great with waves, so that's definitely
Okay.
something I'm
You
gonna
have your feet in.
work
You
on.
have to go all
Yeah,
in.
yeah. No, I've been more. I've been exploring a bit more, but now that the leg is better as well, I feel less, you know, at some point it was like I don't want to be moved by a wave too much because then it's gonna hurt my knee and all that. So like it was
Sure.
just preventing more pain. But
I don't want that.
yeah, it's definitely something to explore.
Yeah. The power of water too. It's like I'm even being guided to remind myself through this. It's like when we even drink water, we can infuse it with our intentions. Like water takes on emotion,
Yeah.
thoughts, and even just something written on the outside of that. So
Yeah, I did see some reel, I think, lately that, yeah, someone was saying that with the morning water, they infuse it with intention before they drink
mm,
it. I
yeah,
don't have the habit of doing that, but it sounds pretty cool. I might add it, but I definitely haven't been doing it. But
yeah,
yeah, I do believe that it can also
yeah.
I mean, it's intention is a very powerful thing. So
Totally. Yeah, and I think it was a Japanese researcher that did a study and looked at the water molecule and how it was affected by the thoughts. And so that's, again, it's like that reminder, like our body's listening, we're all connected so deeply.
mm,
So
yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you, Maggie.
It
And
was such a good conversation.
I
Thank
know
you.
we'll definitely chat more. I'm so excited that you're the first person I've interviewed to kick this off. Like, it's just such an honor.
My honor.
So thank you. And how can anyone reach you if they feel guided to work with you and follow your journey?
So on any socials, it's Thrive with Megs. That's Instagram is probably the best. My website is thrivewithmegs.com. All the current offerings are there, and on YouTube I'm there as well. And I will say it because I do want to and plan to do more content over there. I haven't lately. It's Awaken the Warrior Within, but the name, actually you can search it by Thrive with Max as well. And you can DM me, there's a free discovery call. The website should be very informative enough, but if there's any questions, then feel free to DM me on Instagram or email me, like whatever is the most convenient form for you. And thank you for asking.
Of course. Yeah, I'll link all that below for anyone who wants to reach out. But yeah, you're such a gift, and I'm so proud of you and excited that you've had that resilience to move through your journey, because a
Oh,
lot
yes.
of people up against what you were odds against of what was really handed to you. But it's that old saying too, it's like we're not given more than we can handle, even though sometimes we
Yes.
feel like we're breaking, but sometimes the breaking open is exactly what we need to be replanted. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Exactly. Replanted. We just planted.
Yeah, constantly replanting. Oh, well, thank you. I'm so excited that we did this. Oh, all right. So see you next time, everyone, for the podcast. And I have a feeling I'll ask you back on because there's so much more we could talk about, so many different things we can uncover and explore, and even share more about your journey as well and your healing. So thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, everybody.